Cool. All right. So here's a way to make a quick multiplayer game. Say games, third person. I don't need any of this stuff. And I'm just gonna call this uh 5-3 multiplayer for 5-3. Cool. And this is just using the third person template. Um, we've looked a little bit at blueprints, level blueprints where you put your key presses, but ours are in this example, the third person character, we also could do key presses for a third person character, right? So it's already been enabled for that character as well. So I'm going to leverage the fact that I am going to be playing as a third person character. And this is just fun. This is not really essential for class. I'm going to open up this third person character. And at the top, I want to do a few things. First of all, I'll do multiplayer. Sometimes you have to do it, like if you're making it executable, you want to be able to quit. This is not essential, but it frustrates me when there's no way of quitting. So I'm going to use the escape key, and then I'm just going to say quit. All right, quit game. So fun, that's the first thing. And so what I want to do is when I start off, I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to be in this map, and I want to go to another map called lobby. And lobby will be um, just a blank map. So let's say new level, basic, create, and I'm going to save this one, make a little adjustment, save it. And now somewhere in here, I could just say lobby. Cool. So when I hit when I type in input one, the one key, I want to open a map. And that map is called lobby. And then the options are, I want to listen to connections. So I'm going to put in the word listen and say, it's like a console command, listen for connections. Cool. And then what you folks will do is when you join, you'll say input two, and then I want to do a console command, execute a little command, and that command is I want to open the connection to my IP address. So 192.168.194, no, 192, right, .194. Great. So here it is. Here's the project. Really simple. When I go back to the other map, third person map, I'm here. I'm gonna say, I think it should work in any way you do it, but oftentimes when you do multiplayer, you need to do it as a standalone game or at least do it in a new editor window. I'm gonna try it in a standalone mode for a second. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, when I hit play, give it a second. Cool, I'm here. If I hit one, it does go to the lobby, and then escape does quit. That makes me happy. Cool. I'm going to go to wherever I've made this, which will be in my Unreal Projects, multi, and I'm going to save just the content, and that's all I really need. I'm going to make this into a zip file. And then for you folks, once you're on the VPN to test that this is working, I'm going to upload this to Dropbox real quick and share it with you. Again, this is just totally a non sequitur because we jumped on VPN, and I want to totally show you folks how it works without getting too far into the nitty-gritty of client-server relationship. Basically, I'm creating a listen server, and you'll be clients connecting to me. Mhm. And it looks like it's already done. So copy the link. And now this is in Slack. It's also in chat. You can put it anywhere. We can find it later on in here. Cool. Uh, make sure you extract this. Don't just double click into the folder. It needs to be extracted into its own folder. I've seen some people try to run executables and that doesn't work. And once you open up the project, you should be able to show this multiplayer. The reason why I'm showing this kind of now, and I think it's appropriate to do in class now, is that some people are now formulating and dreaming about what they want to do. And for instance, if you're playing the Super Mario Land Mario Kart game, it's a multiplayer game, right? And that might be a functionality that you might want, you dare to dream that you want to have multiplayer functionality in your final project. And oftentimes it's been very, very complicated to show how to do a multiplayer game, but I want to show that it is fairly straightforward and easy to get up and running in a very basic way, which is a relief because a lot of people, when they would try to do multiplayer, in the 10 years I've been teaching, they sometimes couldn't even figure it out for their thesis. In fact, most of the time I would give people like a cutoff point. Like you have to be by spring break, if you haven't done a multiplayer and they can't connect, then you need to drop it and just say, and multiplayer would go from here. So once you can open up the project, try it in standalone game, but I think it might work and just select a viewport and the player editor window, if you do a new window, and see if anyone can join me. And I might have done this way too quickly for anyone to actually give it a shot, but the whole idea is that with the VPN connected so that you could ping me and it would get a connection, then you should be able to join into a multiplayer game. So we're basically connecting this LAN party, this thing, these images that I showed you from before. While I wait to see if anyone wants to see if they can make it, I could go into like my desktop at work and do the same thing. Cool. So there I'm at. I can find Slack. And I encourage everyone to play along. This is fun stuff. All right. User parks.
Where where can I find the link to the Excel sheet?
The Excel spreadsheet is at the top of the syllabus. I can also put it in week 4. Here we go. And then, so this is my remote computer. Oops. Yes. Sorry. There we go. Remote computer. Download. Be pretty small. Cool. That's 300 megabytes. And then I'm going to extract it. Has anyone joined? All right. We're doing it. Ah, go for it. My work computer I did not clean up before the beginning. Multi.
Hey Todd,
Yeah.
so after you get into the lobby map,
Uh,
um,
go to the third person map first and do it from there.
uh, that makes sense.
And then just press 2.
Third person map.
There we go. See? So now we have 2 people playing. So I'm basically, my computer, my laptop is being a server, and anyone can be the client. Right, so it's because I didn't include I was being short, and I didn't include the config. Which one is this one? Multi-5. Third person map. Anyway, my computer remotely is being really funky. But here we go, get the idea. So you now have the source code for doing multiplayer games. That's all. I want to move on from this. Escape will close. And then you're more than welcome to change the blueprints so that it says open your own IP address, whatever. So it's just 3 blueprint nodes, 2 really to do multiplayer game. Cool. Cool. So at least we got to see a little bit of that working. That was the idea, is to show that everyone could be on the same local area network. Cool. So we're going to move in real quickly to um, OSC. So I also have in our demos channel, I'm going to drop a couple plugins real quick. We're going to put in this is our OSC plugin for Mac and OSC plugin for Windows. All right, so just download those suckers. I can put them in the show control to Windows. So the go ahead and download these plugins. I'll show you where to put them. Second. So we're gonna get into Max real quick. I'm gonna pause the recording. We'll come back to it. I really hate using Zoom. So here we are in Max Land. The syllabus has some great getting started videos for you that'll be on what I'm doing today. So this is just an hour long. It shows you everything that I'm going to show you in a second. And then if you really want to go crazy, here's a great that goes into video, shows you really what the capabilities are. So once you download Max, you open it up, you have your console, and then you can do new patcher. It's blank. And then we can come up here and drag in items. So one of the things we want to do is maybe throw in a toggle. And then maybe we want to throw in some different kinds of buttons, right? So B for button, everything has a shortcut. We make them change the size. And then we can mess around with numbers, right? So that's an integer number. And, but right now, if I try to move it around, it's going to move it around and the organization. If I want to interact with it, I can lock the patch, or I can hold down Control, or I think it's like Control E or Command E that you open and close it with shortcuts. So Max is super useful to know some shortcuts in. Those are all listed in this thing that was in the presentation right here, integer box, all this kind of stuff, right? I can copy and paste this stuff. Right, so this toggle would then print to the console, which is right here. Right, so toggles are ones and zeros. Or we can have two things going in here. And now you can see these are bangs, right? These are just executing things. These are just numbers. Cool. So Max can also send to other applications over OSC. It's actually was pretty much designed for Max initially. We can say new UDP send. Max is, so this is a new object. We can just drag an object down and we type it in. You see that it's yellow. It's not actually ready for me to do anything. It says it's airing out because it wants me to put in some arguments. It says, who is my host? Who am I sending it to? This is looking for an IP address, right? I could do 192.168.194. Or 192.194. And then it requires a port. Creative coding usually use ports between 6,000 and 9,000. We're going to use by default 8,000 because that's what the Unreal plugin's looking for. So this is sending it over my VPN. But UDP send, I can also say local host because I'm sending it on my own computer. I don't need to actually send it on a network at all. So these are actually the same identical things. Make it a little bigger so you guys can see. Cool. So let's start doing it in Unreal. I'm going to jump into my sandbox project, which is this one. I'm going to find the folder. And inside the folder, we'll see the content folder. We use the content folder when we were migrating things. I need a new folder beside these ones called plugins. This is again the same on Mac as in PC, but you'll have your own folder. I'm going to go over to my OSC plugins. And what I've done is I put the plugin inside of a plugins folder already. And I can just drag that plugins folder over. So this is the way it should be structured. Plugins should be next to your content. If we were to add more plugins, maybe you want to do a plugin for a specific kind of serial controller or something like that, we'd put all of them in this Unreal plugin. Okay. The OSC is native to Unreal. You don't need this plugin, just so you know, in virtual production class, we'll use this one only. It's a lot harder to understand. There's a reason why it's a lot harder to understand. It does a lot more. But for what we're doing, the plugin is incredibly quick and easy and useful to use. It is actually this GitHub repository. And you have to compile it from scratch. I've already done that for you, which is why I'm handing it to you. To compile from scratch, just so you know, you have to create a C++ project, and you have to put in the put in the plugin, and then when you open the project, it says, "Do you want to compile this plugin?" And it does. I always have compiler projects that are C++ projects for every engine version, so that I can put together plugins. You don't need to right now, just let you know how I did it, and I can show you it, and I can send you a link for how it's done. But it's a very quick thing once you already have Visual Studio installed with C++ classes and all that kind of stuff. But it's not worth doing today. Let's just get to the fun stuff, and we could do a deeper dive on this stuff later. Cool. So let's get into opening up. So now when I open up the class project, and I go to edit plugins, you'll see that now sees a thing called OSC. If we go to your project settings, we can see all the plugin details. We'll see that OSC is looking at port 8000. So I can change it here, but I need to change it back in the other place. It also I can send OSC. We're definitely not sending OSC yet. That'll be in a couple of weeks. All right, now we're just trying to do show control into Unreal. So now when I open up, I'll make a blueprint. Let's duplicate this one. And call it Week04. I could do some new things. So we have a BP light. I'm gonna do a different BP light. I'm gonna say new blueprint class, actor, BP, light, and then OSC. We now have a new component that we can get access to called OSC receiver. This is basically like it's an invisible trigger box. In the same way we were able to create events for overlapping and or hitting or ending overlapping of trigger boxes, we can right click and create an event for OSC receive. If I get OSC, I want to do things. Where you see this is a red event box, just like event begin play and event tick. And now OSC is data sent over addresses. Right, so let's go over to Max and make an address real quick. Right, going back to the presentation, it said to prepend the address. So I'm hitting N for new, prepend, and then it's an internet address. So we're going to say /, and we'll say light. We can connect these. And then I want to turn on and off a light. So let's toggle, or we can even do simple. We could do a button. We could just do a bang and connect. All right, so now we should be sending in here. I locked it. And for right now, one thing that you have to always remember is you have to put the object in the world. Otherwise, you can't execute it. And then we need to actually add a light so we can see something here. Let's add a point light. There it is. So we have a new light right here. I can hit simulate or play. And now one thing that might happen is that you might not see any interaction when you put Max up front. By default, Unreal sometimes wants to save energy. Game engines sometimes want to be helpful, not lazy, or I guess it is because it's lazy. This is another settings window. This is your editor preferences. Come down to performance and just say where it says use less CPU in background, make sure that's not checked. Otherwise, it won't refresh and you won't see any changes. It is not checked, so everything's good to go. I'll save all. And I hit simulate and come over to max. And so now I'm hitting bangs. I need to do one more step. We're gonna make a print. So print. So you see in the top left, we're getting data. By using this plugin, we're now able to do show control. Ooh. So we need a filter by data. So I'm looking for, does my address equal light? So this would be that if I'm sending a whole bunch of messages, I only want to receive it when I get a message for light. This red means it's a Boolean, and it's for our if statement, which is called a branch. If we get data on light, then I want you to toggle the visibility. So instead of key presses and instead of um, uh, collision boxes, this is our new trigger. This is execution of data from one software to the other. So now if I hit simulate, I come over max, off and on. Right. So, maybe next week I'll show you some of the crazy elaborate control interfaces I made for doing like VJ sets and stuff. Cool. So we have light. Maybe you want to change the color of the lights. Right. So we can go over to max. And again, there's just a ton of different objects, so obviously it's a little frustrating to get started. You have to just be aware these objects exist. One of the things we're going to look at is called a mood machine. I'm going to look at a color swatch, and you guys will recognize a little color picker. Great. I want to steal a bit of code that's already been written. So if I come over here to the left, there's a little arrow, click it, I can open up the help file. And the help file has this cool thing called the mood machine, a little encapsulated math that does a drunk walk through color. And I totally just want to steal that. So I'm going to unlock this. Good artists borrow, great artists steal. Don't need this one. Lock it. And we're getting a couple things from here. From here, we're getting an R, a G, a B, and the alpha set to 1. We can get a visual representation of what the color looks like. But this is not just a single float. This is a list of floats. We don't have to do any splicing. There's no commas. There's no other syntax I have to worry about cleaning out. It's just a list with a space. This is the easiest data to send as a list. Instead of sending a single value, I'm going to harness the fact that this is 3 values sent as a list. So Max is great because I don't have to hit stop. I just let it do what it needs to do. And I'm going to prepend a new value RGB. And then it needs to go over here. Once your spaghetti starts looking a little bit too convoluted, you might get indigestion. It's important to maybe clean up some of this stuff. One of the things we want to do is just like we have UDP send and UDP receive, we also have just regular sends and receives. We say send UDP, and it's a way of creating little shortcuts, little portals around our project. And then this guy over here, could be nice and tidy up here. This sucker could be over here, nice and tidy. And we're just going to copy this and send UDP. And of course, we need to receive it. Receive. And it's not going to know what to receive unless the names match. We can give whatever name we want to, it just needs to match. Now that all this data is going over to Unreal, we're still getting light toggling off and on, but now we can mess around with color. Back in the blueprint. If it's not light, we want to look and see if it's RGB. So equals. I called it /RGB. And then execute here. If it's not here, then the condition must be false. Could it then be this one? So when you make these complicated blueprints, sometimes they can be these cascading branch statements. I saw somebody using in their homework a switch. So you could do a switch on name. It's the same thing as cascading false things. You can say if, we don't need a default, but if light, if RGB, this is the same thing as doing this. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. That's a shortcut, but right now we're going to get RGB, and now we need to deal with data. We're not just worried about if it executes at all. We're dealing with if it executes, send it this data. To this blue number is a struct. It's a bunch of different datas combined together. It could be floats, it could be messages, it could be whatever we want to. We're going to pack it in Max, but we want to unpack it in Unreal. So we're going to see what it shows you. We're going to do what's called popping. We're going to pop these different datas. These are all floats. So I'm going to pop one float off. And because the list, the first one's going to be that R value. After that one, we're going to pop the next one, which is going to be the G. And then right? And then now we'll take this point light and we're going to set color, set light color. And this light color is a swatch itself. It's called a linear color. It's a linear color structure. We can just split that up. And then when it's here, toggle the visibility. When it's here, change the color of the R, the G, and the B. And we'll come back to this next week and spend more time. I just want to introduce the idea to make sure you guys can get it connected, first of all, and understand use a plugin. So now when I hit play, it's already sending the moon machine. These are the values that's being sent. We can even potentially say, watch this value, watch this value, watch this value. And these numbers will match these values. And now we're going to turn it off, turn it back on, and we're going to show control. Cool. So you can, trigger that sequencer with Max. You can change the parameters of your lights using the mood machine. Let's see. So we'll get to some other things pretty soon. I don't want to go too far because I think this is already kind of a lot. Let's just show toggles working. So toggles will give us 1 or 0. So let's steal this one. I'm going to delete that node, and then we'll do one more address, which is to prepend. This will be called toggle. And then we'll copy over the send UDP. Great. So now we're getting toggles over there. And maybe we don't want to just trigger the light. Maybe we want to toggle and get a value, right? So this was working before. Let's keep this one unique on its own. Let's go to a box. Actor, VP, box, OSC. I called it Bach. And now add in the OSC component. Make an event for it whenever you receive data. Boom, shows it up. We know that the address is called toggle. Use our if statement, which is called a branch. And then get a reference to some geometry. We'll put a cube here. And now we're going to set visibility. So visibility has a Boolean. We can say yes or no. So instead of just alternating whether it's on or off, we have a little bit more control of knowing if it's a 1 or a 0. So we're going to, instead of saying pop a bool, we're getting an integer number. So let's pop an int, which is green. And then if it's a 1, see, it converts it to being off or on. Let's put this in the world because we always forget to do that sometimes. Simulate. And we come over to Max. Off, on, off, on. And see how when we started off, the first one didn't do anything? Because it's not just toggling it. Sorry, if you leave it like that, and then we hit play. This first one's telling it to turn on, so it won't do anything because it's already on. That's that logic of only executing on this Boolean, right? And so now we have control over all these things. Cool. And then the last thing we could do is, because I did my 0-tier IP address, I can share this with you folks. Oh, also the same thing as if I hit message, I can send it the message of 1 or 0. So you could just send flat out values this way. And what's cool about this is I can continue to do stuff in Max. I never have to hit stop in Unreal, and now turn it off, turn it back on. because we're already converting those integers of 0 and 1 to booleans. Cool. So now, if you guys have already installed Max, I can select all this stuff. Let me make this a little more compact. There you go. So now I can copy this, or say edit, copy compressed, go into Slack in week 4, find a code. How do I do that? Like this. There you go. And hit send. Now you folks can take all this, copy it, go to Max, say new from clipboard, and you'll have what I just made. When you lock it, it should already be connected to have that for later. You guys should be able to go ahead and control mine. So I'm gonna toggle this off. And if anyone is adventurous in the last few seconds of class, you can try to override and toggle my light or my cube off. Does anyone want to give that a shot? I can give you some instructions. I can repeat some stuff. But it should already be connected to me over the VPN. Then close my Max. I'm still running here. So go into, and if anyone has Max installed, which is people are in Design for Live Performance, just copy this code box, go to Max. In the meantime, I can always play with my other computer as well and do the same thing. So that's it. So the idea is make sure you guys can connect and get Unreal working. We'll get more into sending and receiving data. I just wanted to go through the multiplayer concepts. I think it's fun to show how quickly you can make a multiplayer game in Unreal. And then we'll continue to address all this stuff. We're not gonna abandon you anytime soon. Oh, somebody's working on it. Now that we're looking, you want to show off? Turn off and on the cube for me. There you go. So somebody's remotely controlling my stuff.
Hell yeah.
That's super cool. You see it super quick, even though we're in different states and stuff like that. So super powerful. This is what we're gonna be using for us this semester. So I sent you the Max batch. You should be good. Let me know if I forget something, and then we have a lot more to discuss. This is just a kind of a beginning, getting you started. Cool. All right, everyone. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.